is being recorded.
Sounds.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm good. So you hear audio from me, eh?
Sorry?
You can hear me talk.
Yes.
And
Seems like you did something.
what's up?
Seems like you did something to work it in a first go.
Not really, to be honest.
Okay.
I
think
thought good.
no, I mean I think one of the reason might be just like your machine is not able to figure it out which device to pick up or which driver to work with and all.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. Like technically right now I've made things more risky.
I see.
'Cause yeah, what happened? I bought a new machine so that I wouldn't have to use as many like graphical adapters and stuff like that. It was dead on arrival, so that's fun. But I to set it up, I was like, all right, let's unplug all the cables and stuff from my old machine. And after I spent quite a few minutes seeing if there's any way I could like have it not be dead, the new machine. It's like,
Is
okay.
is your new machine Linux or any other device?
It is a Chromebox. I ordered a,
So
a Chromebox.
Chromebox is effectively Linux? I'm not sure.
I think it uses a Linux kernel. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they are notorious for like Bluetooth adapter issues, Wi-Fi adapter issues, I guess. I
I
used to
good.
I used to use Ubuntu like before I switched over to Mac, and Ubuntu has so many of these problems, specifically with Wi-Fi. I mean, I used to struggle every time I used to install new version or update, not update, but I used to keep switching between different distros. So whenever I used to switch Ubuntu, I was like, man,
Do you not enjoy editing your WPA supplicant file?
what is that?
I think it's WPA supplicant. It's the thing. It's used to configure the wireless driver in
I
Linux,
see. I
or at
don't
least it
remember.
was.
Okay. I used to follow some tutorial and I used to just follow the step and I used to forget what I did.
Let's see. Excuse me. WPA supplicant. Yeah. It is a free software implementation of an IEEE 802.11 supplicant for Linux, FreeBSD, NetBSD, QNX, ROS, Windows, Interesting. And
Windows.
to being WPA and WPA2 wireless. Oh, right. Okay, so this is about configuring the passcode essentially for your
Yeah.
wireless.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's same for, I guess, Raspberry Pi and other stuff. Like you have to, I
Yes.
was following one of the drill, like you have to literally like write a file which has the password for your SSID. And that's how it will fetch and then connect. I was like, it's too
Yeah,
much.
I think that file may have been called WPA supplicant. I remember needing to do something like this for a while and it sucking. Anyway, so you stopped using Ubuntu and switched to Mac OS, you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I used to use like when I was doing my undergrad and all. Then when I started working initially, I used to use like a Windows machine. I used to work on .NET and other stuff. But then as I moved like to Mac and Go and other stuff, since then I'm using like Mac, which again essentially Linux kernel, but surprisingly works well.
Oh, BSD kernel. I don't know what the difference is, but there is one.
I think it's a port, right? I'm not sure.
BSD versus, it might be, I think it's like a parallel implementation. Let's see, BSD versus Linux.
Waiting Google to generate the result.
Let's see if this Reddit page is open. Kernel. So they are different kernels, it's looking like. Yeah, with
relying on Bard's answer.
What's that?
I was relying on Bard's answer, but it was like very vague. Well, ChatGPT is giving the same thing. Licensing, development is that. Anyways.
Yeah, it's like hard to. Help desk geek. There we are. This seems to be the most grokkable link I could find.
The
What are you talking
Chromebooks,
about?
Linux versus BSD. Somehow we got here from like drivers and
Right.
wireless drivers. Yeah, and it's vast superiority to Windows, obviously.
I'm assuming it's a office machine.
The thing I was replacing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean the
Yeah.
Chromebook that you got. I'm assuming it's an office machine.
No, I was getting it personally because I needed something that fit some very specific requirements. But yeah, it would have only been for work. I use Windows for fun. Windows has Steam.
Sartash is also Windows fan.
I'm not saying that I'm a fan. It just works.
Does anyone else have a Steam Deck?
I do not. I heard good things about it though. Do you have one?
I do. I like it. There are parts of it that are kind of underpowered. Like I was hoping to use it as basically a Steam Link device, and
so stream stuff from the PC.
Right, like I wasn't expecting it to run like AAA games out of the box.
Right. Yeah, I think you can do that, right? Like the Steam Link functionality.
You can. I found it was having trouble even like driving the menus at 4K for the navigation, the basic OS.
You mean with
there's
Steam Link or natively?
Getting to Steam Link, right? Because you basically use the Steam like big picture mode,
right.
and then you can like do remote play is the general flow. You need to go into the Linux desktop versus using their Steam Link, their native Steam Deck landing or UI. Otherwise, there's some performance bugs. Was interesting, not necessarily a deal breaker. I was a bit disappointed that Linux doesn't yet support HDR. And in the end, the latency, I think, was the true killer. Like it's hard to perceive, but there are certain games, like I was playing Sekiro, and
that game is fast, so I would guess that's hard.
Yeah, like it got to the point, there was one fight that I just could not win. And then I said, screw it.
I think I gave up on that game immediately.
Well, but it made the difference. Like, I'm not saying like it was like, oh, I immediately won it, but like I did like 50% better just by not having the streaming latency.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I did try the xCloud a few times. Yes, there's definitely latency. If it's like a competitive thing, it would be very hard.
Yeah. Anything like twitchy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but I
don't
do
know
like
where we got to. How did we get to this?
I like it for like the portableness for sure. Yeah. But then I think that does limit you to like either indie games or stuff that's older than a certain point. Like it'll play, for instance, Sekiro natively. It'll be slightly choppy, even at like the 720p resolution that the deck has. And Sekiro is 2019, I want to say.
Yeah, I think that was very smart of them to do like 720p screen.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Gatekeeper?
Oh, I guess. Yeah, I see we have.
I thought this is the Steam Deck community call.
So I had some items I put in. Oh, did I close the tab for the notes? Did anyone else add anything? No. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to add to the agenda? I'm going to say no, but I don't think these will take up all of our time anyway, so we'll either end earlier. People can add stuff. So the first thing I wanted to make people aware, and this is also my bad, I did not put this in the team drive that we have. Is it possible to migrate it, the Google Doc? Does anyone know?
I think Xander had a PR open. I'm not sure what happened.
No. I think he's asking if you can move it after the fact. I think yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So people aren't blocked on like commenting on it or anything. All right. So I made a stab at developing the engine semantics for something that's convertible to validating admission policy. That's this first doc on the agenda list. We can talk about it if you want. I figured I'd just mention it exists and give people time to read it and comment on it out of band. Concerns? Thumbs up?
Yeah, I will have to review this.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so no rush. I just said I would have it, so there is a first, at least a starting point, and I'm curious for what people think. The second one, absolutely, yeah. The second item is apparently Open Census is going end of life at the end of the month. They're not they're not like deleting their repositories, right? They're archiving them. And also we use vendoring. So it doesn't affect us in the short term. But that also means like it won't be getting any more updates at any point. So it's probably time to start actually migrating to OpenTelemetry and seeing if that's possible. I remember last time there were some conflicts, like version conflicts. I think OPA was using some kind of version and Kubernetes was on a different version. Does that ring true to anyone?
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, and this is from like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Like we looked at moving to OpenTelemetry, and there were some library conflicts. If I remember right, it was between like the dependency that Kubernetes had versus the dependency that OPA had.
Yeah, OpenTelemetry has like always ongoing conflicts for some reason. They do some changes that is not backwards compatible. I have fixed some of their issues in the past for other projects. It's been a constant fight for Hotel.
Got you. So so it sounds like you've dealt with Hotel for a bit. What are your thoughts about the end of this month, end of life stuff?
I think they should definitely move it at some point. Yeah, I think this is like a good forcing function. I think we knew this was coming for a while. Yeah, and I think when we were trying to we were doing the Open Census integration, Hotel didn't have our requirements at the time. I don't remember what they were at. It's been a while. But yeah, that's why we went with Open Census. And then, but it was always the idea that we would move to Hotel when it's more mature.
Yeah, I did a quick, like for me, the thing I would be concerned about and the user-facing bit would be the exporters. I did a quick survey. It does look like there is a Prometheus exporter. It's shaped differently. Like it doesn't auto-include the HTTP handler that Prometheus has, but I think we can migrate that one. And I think the other exporters also have Hotel compatible siblings. So I don't think we have a concern on the user-facing end of things. Does that ring true for everyone? I don't know how much experience we have with exporters in this group.
You mean the Open Census exporters or the Hotel exporters?
Hotel exporters, and whether we need to be concerned about moving off of Open Census means that there's functionality that will no longer be there, right? Like we have a Prometheus exporter, GCP exporter, Open Census exporter. I don't know if Open Telemetries is different from Open Censuses in terms of its wire format. I mean,
yeah, I think I need to look at this more. Oh, okay, I see. So today we use Prometheus exporter, and then, that's open census Prometheus exporter. I see. And then you're saying we don't know if the open telemetry Prometheus exporter has the same wire format?
I think that one does. I'm not 100% sure. I spent like 30 minutes or so looking at the new exporter after I saw this bug.
Gotcha.
And
but this will also be the open census exporter, and the stack driver exporter will also be in the same wire format?
Yeah, I think the wire formats are the same. Like, this is, again, not validated. What threw me off, at least for the Prometheus exporter, is the API of it is shaped very differently, right? So it's not like we could just change the import path and be done with it. And it felt rather opaque to me and didn't have much documentation around it. And so the way our Prometheus exporters we're currently engaging with it is we just register it, and it is also an HTTP server. And it wasn't obvious if we still had that HTTP server component. But I looked a little bit into like the implementation of our current Prometheus exporter, and under the hood, they're just using Prometheus's HTTP server, and it's like a convenience function. So I think it should just work. Does that make sense?
A little bit, yeah.
Because yeah, it would. The thing that I would be afraid of is I don't want people to suddenly have to use a sidecar. Because I think for a bit that was the model they were going for, right? Is you always run a sidecar and there's only the open telemetry exporter. Or was that never the plan?
I don't remember that part. It's been a while.
Gotcha.
How about we assign it to someone and work on it? We don't have to solve it on this call.
Yeah.
Can we assign it to you, Sartaj?
Yeah, feel free to send to me for now, yeah. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
So I see. So July 31st, I mean, end of month, basically.
Yeah, and that's not like a drop dead date, I don't think. It's just that's when the code starts to decay. I don't know how much we're concerned about that. Migrating Go versions, I think, would be the scariest bit. Because I don't like metrics don't really have much security around them. They tend to be viewable by all.
I think there's a project, right? The Cube RBAC proxy. I think that's supposed to add some more security around it.
Right, but that's a layer on top of the code.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What does that mean for our support for these things? Like the exporter, I mean.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, is I think we're fine. I think we can, there's like equivalents that we can migrate to. Not for free, sadly, but we can. And still provide the same user-facing level of functionality. Like, I think we can make this invisible to users.
Like invisible as in they would still have to use a new exporter or keep using the old one?
Well, as far as they're concerned, the exporter is a flag, right? And it enables like, oh, if I hit the /metrics endpoint on the Prometheus port, data shows up.
Okay.
As long
I
as they
think-
get the same data, I think that's fine. They don't care what they're what is using in the back, right?
So we're hoping that there's no user impactful changes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, assuming that it's the same format, output is the same, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Got it.
Which for at least Prometheus, it's a fairly well-defined spec. So it better not be different.
Yeah. What about the open census exporter itself? I'm guessing we'll have to change. I mean, this will need to be deprecated, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope they have compatible replacement. Like, I'm not sure if the open census exporter versus the open telemetry exporter, as far as metrics go, if they're actually different things or not. That I haven't looked into, because I assumed like their project would take care of their project, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's definitely an open telemetry exporter. I just don't know how they compare. Yeah. And I think this is like a separate pod that's running in the cluster and then collecting the metrics. Right?
Open
Yeah.
census was definitely that.
Yeah, it's the same idea, but yeah, and then obviously from there you can export to any sort of format you want.
Yeah.
So this can include Prometheus too, if somebody wants to do that.
Yeah, that's that like sidecar adapter layer kind of thing, which I get it. On the other hand, like then you need to have sidecar images available, right? And that gets into like trusted build considerations, which, you know, if everyone agrees, hey, there's going to be a centralized build of these particular sidecars, maybe less of an issue, but operationally speaking, if the code just does it, that's one less thing you need to worry about building, deploying, and making sure is accessible to all kinds of situations. Anyway.
Yeah, I think they're agreed on the outcome of this. I'll take a look at it, and then we can go from there.
Cool. Any other topics? Shall we end early? I can return my broken machine to sender. It's good to see everyone.
Thank you.